and welcome to Life Talk Burrito. So happy we have guests here today. We'd like to ask people who are participating in the audience questions. Drop in where you're from, just questions. So here's my co-host, Shreyas.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I think there is an issue with the audio. Am I audible? Please do let us know in the chat.
Yours is better than Michelle's. We might want to redo that intro just so everybody can hear it, because Michelle, I think your audio is cutting out every word there.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. In case you don't know, I'm having internet issues today again, so we'll see how it goes. I may disappear, but I'll be back. Welcome to Life Talk Burrito. We have a slew of guests with us today. So I'd like to introduce you to my co-host, in case you don't know who he is. You should by now. Shreyas? Awesome. In case you don't.
Well, this is probably the best episode so far in the Life Talk Burrito series. We have an international group here. We have Michelle, Ira, Jason, Professor Pete, and Brittney representing the United States. Lola is probably representing Europe, in particular Spain, and I'm here in India. It's about 9:30 in the night. It's sweltering hot, 36 degrees Celsius over here. So before we proceed, I'd like to take a few moments to introduce our lovely panelists, starting with Ira to my right. So Ira, owner of Bowman Digital Media. Welcome to the show, Ira. Then we have Lola, your career coach from Madrid.
Hello. Well, actually in Malaga now.
Malaga. Yeah.
Gotta be quick to keep up.
Welcome. Next, we have Jason, founder of XXO Connect, which is a very interesting platform, and we will have him share about the platform in detail in a short while. Then we have Brittney Swan, CEO of Swan Resumes, your go-to person for preparing you for interviews. And finally, our stress expert, who has often been hailed as the go-to person if you have any stress issues, Professor Pete Alexander. Welcome, everyone. So what are the important or interesting updates your end, just to kickstart this conversation?
Well, I've moved, as we all know. I keep talking about it, representing Europe here. So obviously I'm originally from the UK. I was living in Madrid, Spain for 3.5 years, but I've just 2 weeks ago moved to Malaga in the south of Spain. So that's what's occupying my time at the moment.
That's cool.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
I've never been to Europe at all.
Never.
No. I'm one of those.
Wow.
I'm one of those. I would like to change that, but
maybe now is not the time. Maybe now is not the time. Oh.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. My wife and I, we were actually scheduled to go to Alaska over the summer last year, and that got canceled. And then this year, we're actually booked to go to the Bahamas again in June. But I don't know.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, we'll see. They have canceled all the cruises out of the United States through May. So there's a chance I can still go. But we've kind of made a secondary plan just in case that one doesn't happen. But
so are you doing a cruise to the Bahamas? Is that what
that's
it is?
that's the goal.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So it was an Alaskan cruise. We like the cruise because, look, if you've never been on a cruise, I'm going to tell you why it's wonderful. It's wonderful because you don't have to deal, like, you get to the boat and then you don't have to deal with transportation. You know, like, you get to go to different ports of call and see stuff and do stuff. And they take your bedroom and all your belongings with you. So, you know, and there's a lot of entertainment on the boat. Let's just say that. I have fun. I actually like the boat more than I do the ports, but my wife likes the shopping. So it is what it is.
Cool. Is it just the two of you, or are you taking any of the kids?
Yeah, so last year it was the whole family. This year it's just me and my wife. So we like alternate. We alternate because, you know, we like our kids. We really do. But we like each other better.
Yep.
So you gotta have some time. Look, I've been married for 21 years and I have 8 kids. You guys don't know, right? So
Wow.
for us to take the family somewhere, first of all, it's really expensive, and two, you gotta have. I'm gonna say it this way: happy wife, happy life, right? So you gotta make sure. I gotta make sure that I'm spending time focusing on my wife, not just my kids, entertaining the kids. So.
Well, I have almost 8 cats. I have 7, so I'm pretty close to you, Ira.
There you go. It's kind of like breeding cats. It really is. Tell people you're not really a good parent until you have 5 kids, because presuming that you and if you're still married, you have 4 arms, right, between the 2 of you. When you have 5 kids, you got to talk at least one of them into doing something that you want them to do, right? Like, don't cross the street, don't run, blah blah blah. Like, otherwise you can grab them. Mm-hmm. But when you get to 5, you got to at least be able to convince one of them.
So you're a little young to be a crazy cat lady.
Right?
Well, I was born a crazy cat lady, but I do have 3 kids and I have 2 granddaughters, and I would say all 3 of my kids, it's difficult to get them to do anything they don't want to do. They're much like their father.
Mm.
My wife feels that way about my kids and me. Sometimes she calls me her oldest child.
Oh.
We'll just say it like that. I grew up in some ways. I'm only 5'8", so I didn't grow up too much.
I only have 1 kid. I'm one and done, but I have a Great Dane, a Great Pyrenees, and 2 cats. So I think they mock up like at least 15 children on my end, especially the Great Dane.
Yeah, I was going to say the Great Dane for sure.
Yeah, he's 7 months and he's 120 pounds, and he does not realize how big he is.
Yeah.
He'll just sit on you and you're like, oh, thank you.
My neighbor used to have a Great Dane when I lived in Ohio. They had a Great Dane, and the dog was taller than the fence.
Yeah.
So like he could just look over the fence whenever he wanted. It was.
He's so lazy, like he won't.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The dog was super. The Great Dane across the street, or the next door neighbor's Great Dane was just super chill though. Like he was there sometimes. You didn't even know he was there, and then you would look over and like, oh, I have somebody watching.
Is he a talker? Mine's a talker. I'll be like, what are you doing? He's like, brah, brah, brah. I'm like, all right.
Yeah. That's exactly how they sound too, right? Like this lower.
Yeah.
Brittney, how does that go again?
Brah, brah, brah. I got it down.
Ira, I'm trying to figure out. You said you have 8 children and the 2 of you. What do you guys? Do you guys have a bus? Like, I'm being serious. How do you transport?
Yeah, that's okay. So update, right? So we live in Los Angeles, and my wife's family is still up in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, and that's where my wife and I grew up and met and all that stuff, right? So as a child, I split time between Vegas and the Bay Area. But anyways, that's where her family's from. So we were going up there. We quarantined. We were going up there. We have a Chevy Express van. Now, this is like, you see them all the time. They're the shuttle buses, but not the fancy ones. Don't think about the Mercedes, the tall, like the cool ones. Think about the old school ones that used to be picked up at the shuttle and taken to the airport, right? Picked up at the airport and taken to the hotel. That kind of bus or that kind of van. So it's 10 years old, or going on 10 years old. The transmission died on us. So that was fun. But yeah, it's a full-size van. In fact, when we went to buy it, we were dressed up. I was taking her on a date. Like I said, happy wife, happy life, right? So I was taking her on a date. I'm like, you know what? Let's go. We had a minivan. She was pregnant, but she wasn't really showing yet. So it was like the first 6 weeks or something. Because my wife shows really early now. That's what happens when you have 8 kids. Anyways, I digress. So we're there at the dealership, and we say we need a van. He's like, "Oh, is it for your youth group?" Like he thought we were church, church or something. You know what I mean? I'm like, "Well, we're here for our personal youth group. If that's what we mean."
Your own football team.
Yeah. What's funny is, so like I was really into sports as a kid. I don't know if the rest of you guys were, but I was totally into athletic everything. And my kids none of them, I mean none of them, are into sports. They're all into like art, drawing, photography, theater, dance, singing. So I have the band, not the sports team.
I was going to ask you if you guys all formed a band, because that's what I would do.
Yeah, so like my 16-year-old is playing piano, taking piano lessons. 3 of them are in choir now. 3 of the 3 youngest are still in elementary school, so I haven't started any of that stuff. But the 5 oldest, the 2 oldest actually really didn't do music. The oldest did do theater. The second one is a book nerd. She's like, she's the introvert of the group, so she's happy with the cat and the book, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, now we know why you don't have any hair, because I wouldn't either.
Yup. Jason and I can tell you something that's accurate. Bald is beautiful. It's also easy. I was listening to my mom. My mom has thin hair and short hair. And so she actually was just out here. My wife took her to the airport yesterday. They were talking about how long will it take you in the morning to get ready so they can figure out what time they need to get up. She had one of those god-awful flights, like 5 whatever a.m. in the morning kind of thing. So it's like, what time do I need to wake up? And then she said to my wife, well, I don't really wear makeup anymore, which she doesn't. And I have short, thin hair, so it only takes me like a couple minutes to spritz and get it in place. And I'm thinking, man, I save 2 minutes every day. That's awesome. Of course, I do have to shave it, which takes time.
Well, we have a great group of people here today, and we're so happy. But some of you might not be known. There's people on LinkedIn who hardly ever show up. So I'd like to go around and you each tell a little bit about how you serve people. Let's start with Jason.
Appreciate that. Thank you, everybody, for having me. I'm the founder of XXO Connect, which is the platform built for connection to self first. It's a transformational wellness type platform. It's really a platform built for connection to self, where we eliminate everything we know of social media today. So there is no posting, likes, followers, trying to gain connection requests, friend requests, as all of our members were already connected into our platform. So we're here to accelerate human connection and remove the loneliness and isolation, anxiety and depression that is among us right now.
Awesome. Lola, would you like to go next?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Lola Brocklesby. I am the founder of Viva Career Coaching. So I help mid-career professionals who are, stuck and feeling unhappy in their career and don't know where to turn. So I help them to find what they're passionate about and what they're good at and what they want to do, and help them to transition into that new career area.
Awesome. Professor Pete, you're up.
Well, in addition to being the host of the popular Winning at Business and Life podcast, I empower working professionals to go from being mentally and emotionally overwhelmed to be better protecting their health and handling challenging situations with grace and success.
Awesome. Brittney.
Hey, y'all. I'm Brittney, founder of Swan's Resumes. I am a career coach and document architect, team of 5 here. We helped over 800 people last year globally with free services, trying to get them back on their feet during COVID. Right now, we're doing the same, and we offer sponsorship products for those that are in troubling situations or abusive situations. So we've been able to sponsor and give people what they needed during the time of COVID, but we don't only offer that. We also work with big box companies to streamline their recruitment processes, help them fill their candidacy openings, and again, resume documents. So if that's what we're about, let me know if you guys need help.
Awesome. Ira.
I don't know what I do. I do something. I'm sure I do something. I smile a lot. So I run Project Help You Grow. That's been my philanthropy for the past 3 years. I help job seekers, recruiters, and employers come together. It's a free platform. It's a global platform. A lot of people, when they come, they're looking for job listings, which I have on there by the millions. But that's not the biggest thing that we help with. We actually help teach people how to write a resume, how to write a cover letter, strategy on how to interview, things like informational interviews. There's so much advice if people will take it. And I have it in written form and I have it in video form because some people like to read and some people don't read at all, right? So that's the main thing. It's also an SEO boost for those of you who are not searching incognito, which most people are not right now. Most people are doing open searches. So when you have a platform with a domain authority that's in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, like Project Help You Grow has actually been in all of those domain categories over the last 3 years. So, but it has a high DA, so that helps you boost your profile across the board. So your LinkedIn profile, if you have a resume website that you've created yourself, you can put a intro video in your profile. You don't have to create a profile, but if you do, it'll help boost everything because of the DA of Project Help You Grow. So that's kind of the platform, but there's no ads, there's no fees. You can't spend a penny on Project Help You Grow because there's no place for me to collect it, and there's no pop-ups or advertisements. In fact, if you're using ZipRecruiter to find a job, you should just use Project Help You Grow because you don't even have to sign up for it, and you get all the benefits of ZipRecruiter without the spam that comes with it when you sign up for an account. So there you go. And then for business owners, Bowman Digital Media, what we do is we help build your visibility and your audience online. So web traffic, social media traffic, take you from being obscure and unknown to being visible and known. That's basically how I'm helping business owners. That's a paid service. Project Help You Grow is a free service. So that's the great divide with Ira.
Awesome. Shreyas, tell about what you do to help people.
We have been talking a lot. So before I introduce myself, I'd like to just focus on some known names in the audience. So we have G, who is joining us from Texas, your home state. Michele and Judith from Finland. Deanna is joining us from Illinois, and Ira, so he's multitasking right here. And so as our fighting squad warm up to start sharing some values, just go ahead and show your love and support by typing in fighting squad. Or if you love burritos, drop in a burrito emoji and show us your support. So I'm Shreyas. I'm the founder and CEO of Gets It Rise Coaching and Consulting. I mainly help mid-level executives have a good idea about what is their workflow balance and doing all that while not neglecting themselves. So that is my offering, and my alter ego is actually a design engineer who will be moving to Germany very soon, within a fortnight, and joining a German auto major over there. And very excited to listen to what you all have to share. And one thing that actually connects all of us on the panel here is that we come with a service-oriented mindset. So we are here to help and answer any queries that you may have. So please go ahead and drop your questions in the chat. We will pick it up as and when we have questions. So Michele, over to you.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, besides cats, my love is my company, Cultivate and Thrive, and I love to help people find and live their purpose. My focus is on women who are struggling personally and professionally, finding their way, improving marriages, and working with families. So I have a burning question for our panelists. What currently, because it's been a year since COVID actually hit, what is the biggest issue that your clients are facing now?
Well, I think for me, the most obvious thing would be unemployment. A lot of my clients used to be 50% CEOs and 50% people casually looking, and now it's like 90% laid off and 10% casually looking. So for me, it's been able to honestly balance my networking. I know I talked to you a couple of times, Michele, about people who need, mental and emotional help during this time. People need financial help during this time. So I've been able to leverage my partners and been like, I'm a career coach, but this is also who I can help steer you with. So I think for me, the biggest pivot has been, I've been having to use my relationships a lot more during this time of COVID.
Lola?
Yeah, I think for me, it's been a little bit like what Brittney said, just different type of client group coming through, really. But I think a lot of people who were thinking about changing career and then the pandemic happened, they might be a bit reluctant and be thinking, oh, is now the time? I'm not going to get anything else. Should I just stay where I am? And then as the years gone on, they've kind of got this really sort of desperate situation where they're desperate to change career. They're desperate to get out and do something different. So I kind of help them through that transition, really, to help them to believe and see that it is possible, even now in the pandemic, to change career and find something that they love. And it's about doing that sort of preparation work as well, and using the time now to do that, so when the economy does get back to normal, they're ready to go.
I feel like right now is the best time to pivot because everyone's using that transferable skills, and you're seeing a lot of titles of jobs being listed different ways to catch different kinds of candidates right now. So instead of security risk, you're seeing security architect or engineering and all these other different funnels to try to get different kind of candidates. So it's a different playing game. It really is.
But just think about the candidates that are in the pool now. You wouldn't really get this caliber of candidate before, but there's a lot of people out there now who have got a lot of value to give. So, employers are very lucky to even be able to interview some of these people. So, it's amazing, really, that there is the opportunity to transfer and to pivot with a bit of support.
I just recently had a client that sold his company to Target.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and before that, he sold his company to Neiman Marcus, and it's just so crazy to see. Like, even during COVID, you still see these transactions happening with these big corporate boxes. So it's honestly utilizing your transferable skills. Even CEOs are doing interim placements right now, just like, hey, until you find one, use me. And that's bringing in even more money that they would do with a standard contract for 5 years. So, and then, people that are in retail right now, they're looking to get in medical, or they're looking to get into teaching because that's something that's somewhat stable right now, even though it's not. It just looks that way. So I just see, like, during the COVID, we've seen a lot of frantic of like, I'm desperate, but I don't want to look desperate. And what I just want to tell people is recruiters don't even think about, like, this candidate looks desperate. Like, that's something that the candidate thinks about. The recruiters are just looking to fill a position. So if you get into a situation of like, COVID's overwhelming me, just come off qualified. Don't worry about anything else.
Yeah. And also, I think a lot of people are kind of seeing their employers' true colours. So maybe before pandemic, the great employer to work for, and then everything sort of hit the fan, and they've kind of come down on them hard and, checking on them, looking over the shoulder, wanted to know what they're doing every minute of every day. And that was potentially there before, but they didn't see it. So there's been a lot going on for people, but I think with people like us to support, it's just about reaching out and asking for that help, really, because there's a lot of free support out there as well. Alongside, obviously, we do paid services, but we do free services as well.
Yeah. Well, there's also a wave of people like me, right? So for 20 plus years, I was a W2 employee. I got laid off. Well, first I got furloughed, then I got laid off. I was like, well, what am I going to do? I help people find jobs all the time, but I didn't want to go through that. I wanted to just start making money. So I opened my own business. So one of the challenges, it's different now than it was when COVID started. Obviously, we're a year into this. So, a lot of what you guys are saying, I completely agree with, but I think that's more last year's news. This year, a lot of people have already decided they're making an adjustment and they're pursuing that adjustment. What I'm seeing is small business owners, bootstrappers, for the very first time, that are now trying to figure out, how do I get this idea off the ground? How do I go from it being a hobby to making my living? And how can I take something where I'm barely scratching the surface? I know I have a lot more potential. And I actually wrote about it in my post earlier today, this thing called imposter syndrome, where people they don't quite feel like they belong. Like, what is your definition of a professional versus like, okay, so I do photography now for a living. Well, I've been shooting videos and taking pictures for a long time. I started in high school, and I've been out of high school for 25 years, right? So, but now I do it for a living. But I look at some of these other people on Instagram and I go, wow, they're way out. You know what I mean? Like I couldn't be their assistant on their set. You know what I mean? But you don't have to live in their lane. So teaching people and getting people comfortable with that. Hey, what is a professional? And you do belong in that mindset. Helping people build their audience is a part of what I do professionally. So I'm having conversations with people now to answer the question specifically about how I do it. The challenge that I'm facing is getting people over that imposter mindset, that imposter syndrome mindset where they don't feel like they belong, because they do. There's different levels, right? So maybe you're not charging $10,000 a minute like somebody else might, but you can charge a good base fee, and there's a lane for you. So identifying your target market, who is the perfect client for you, what services you can offer, the pricing that you would charge in that, and then building again your audience for that fits that, so you are where you want, so you can thrive. That's the challenge I think a lot of people are facing right now in that small, medium-sized business. Well, probably small for most of you. It's funny when you start to classify small and medium business, like some people think 500 million in annual sales is small.
Oh.
But that's a huge company to me, right? I'm a solopreneur. So that's part of it. I think all of us are making these adjustments, whether we've stayed employed, whether we're looking for a new employer, or whether we've stepped out on our own and on our own shingle. I think a year in, you pretty much know what you want to do. And now it's figuring out how to be better at it. I think that's the challenge that we're all facing.
And Ira, what you say about the imposter syndrome, I think all of us can appreciate that. And it's interesting because I see that a lot too with people who want to look at starting their own business and stuff. And one of my favorite questions I like to ask them is, instead of worrying about that imposter syndrome, which is based on fear, it's all
fear.
Yeah, it's all based on fear. And and I like to tell them that, fear is only a four-letter acronym for fictional evidence appearing real. So they're fearful about something that may or may not happen. But you change that and you just ask yourself, what would I do if I knew I couldn't fail? And so as you were talking about the target audience and the revenue and product or service that you're going to offer, think of it as it's going to happen, and think of it from the positive of you're not going to fail. That's a critical component, because then it goes from being in that stuck state of fear where I can't move to, oh yeah, I got this world of possibilities. And especially if you start thinking really out there, because I even did this with my son when he graduated high school, and he didn't know what he wanted to do. And no, very few college students know exactly what they want to do when they go to college. And I asked him the same question, but I said, don't tell me right now. Wait until tomorrow morning. At least think about it. And he came back to me and he first said, Dad, that was a really interesting question. So first of all, when you can get a teenage kid to compliment you, that as a parent, that's a big deal.
I'll let you know when that happens.
Yeah, exactly. It's so few times that I remember that very clearly. But, he came back with 3 completely out there thoughts. And one of those 3 he's pursuing. So, and that was almost 3 years ago.
I want to talk about this if we can. So I have a suggestion for anybody who's like right there and they're daring to dream about being an entrepreneur or starting their own business, and they're hesitant to make that leap, because it does take a leap of faith, right? But this is what I suggest you need, and it isn't money. And that surprises people, like, what? I don't need money? Well, you don't necessarily need money. But what you do need, I think, to be successful is you got to have some skill, right? You don't necessarily need to be the world's best. I'm not the best at anything I do. I'm not the best at making videos or taking pictures or creating websites or animating graphics, but I have skill in all those areas, right? So I have some skill. Also, I think this is probably the most important. You have to be passionate about it. Like, you have to love it, because as a business owner, you're going to work way more than 40 hours a week, especially as you ramp up your business. And if you don't love it, you will burn out. So just know that you got to love it. Okay. Skill, love it. The third thing is not as obvious, but I think it's super important. You have to have grit. What is grit? It's a little bit of stubbornness. It's a nicer way to say be stubborn, but also it's also troubleshooting, problem solving. Like this, there's a million excuses out there, but you can't hear them. You can realize that there's potential problems and pitfalls, but you have to be able to problem solve. Because if you're not a problem solver, you're going to get derailed pretty quickly. And then the other thing you probably would be helpful is if you have some thick skin. Good old-fashioned thick skin helps you get past all the naysayers, because look, for 25 years, I was in the print business. And now all of a sudden I'm in the media business. They're related, but most people don't get it. And so they're like, well, how do you go from doing this for 25 years to now you're doing that? And you're supposed to be, somebody, a professional, which came to that question that I asked on LinkedIn. What is your definition of a professional? But if you have those things, if you have skill, if you have passion, and you have some thick skin grit, you can do it. You can bootstrap. I did. I started my business with no money. I didn't take any loans, didn't have any investors, don't have a partner. I had bills to pay that very first month because my mortgage and the food, and you imagine what expenses are for 10 people. I have all that stuff. I had to make money, but I didn't do it. I didn't have, $1 million in the bank or access to, this huge bank account. So you can do it, but you need those three things to succeed. So if you don't have those three things, don't jump into business. But if you do, then that's something you can consider.
How did you decide what you were going to transition into then, Ira?
So
were you made redundant?
So what happened at the last job, I actually got frustrated because I moved down from the Bay Area to LA in December of 2019. I started December 30th, 2019 at the job I came down here for. And I'd worked for them once before at a different location in Las Vegas. So it was one of those, hey, I'm going to go back to work for you in this new area. And my mindset was to retire. Well, 5 months later, I was furloughed. So the print business, when COVID hit, all the events and all that extra stuff, activities, sports events, music events, the conventions, all those things stopped right away. And so what I was doing, the type of print work I was doing, basically disappeared, evaporated. So my company, the company that I was working for, they lost over 50% of their revenue almost overnight. And so they had to make adjustments to stay in business. They had to start furloughing people. And I was one of those that, I was made redundant. So, and that's how I felt about that too, by the way, because I think I brought a lot to the table. So I didn't appreciate it. So it is what it is. But, then I did what I just told you guys to think about. What are you passionate about? I started making graphics for my print clients 15 years ago. That's where I started in the virtual space doing, Photoshop and Illustrator, some of these, creative graphics. I was creating graphics so that you can't print it if there's no file. And some of these small business owners, they either couldn't afford to pay an artist to create the graphics, or they didn't even understand that. They just, it was so foreign to them. They're like, what do you mean? I'm paying you $3,000 to wrap my vehicle. Wrap it. What do you mean you need a file? Do what you got to do. It's one of those things. So anyway, so that's how I got to do it. But I love it. I absolutely love it. So I thought to myself, I could create a print brokerage firm, not buy the equipment, but I really didn't want to trust my quality to other vendors all the time, right? So because I didn't have access to that pile of cash that I was talking about, you can do it. You can't necessarily do everything, but some things require money. To buy equipment, I would have had to have the money. So that wasn't it wasn't something I wanted to do. So I crossed that potential business idea off the list. The next one, running a digital media space, it's a lot of software. I don't need a lot of inventory. I didn't need to have a huge building or hire a bunch of people because I have the skill to do it myself. And so for me, I followed the three questions, like, what am I good at? What am I passionate about? Am I willing to work long hours? And for me, it was the obvious choice. So That's how I decided it. In fact, if you're trying to figure out what it is that you should do, ask yourself those questions. What do I love to do? And what am I good at doing? Because it needs to be both. Like you could really want to be in the NBA, but suck at basketball. You shouldn't go out to be a professional basketball player, right? You can just use that for anything you want. Like whether you want to be a chef because you love to cook, but people tell you your food's awful, or they never ask for seconds, maybe, right? When you say you're cooking, all of a sudden they cancel the dinner reservations. Then probably should be a professional chef.
So with my clients, have been talking a lot about the OFCCP, and with you building new businesses, how are you talking to them about it in the time of COVID, and how? Because I know you said you do recruitment and resumes. So how do you plug all that into the resume process, but also like the career building process? Because that's really interesting.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
So Project Help You Grow and Bowman Digital Media are completely separate. For Project Help You Grow, I don't write resumes for folks. I plug them into resume writers that are part of the project, like Curtis Tompkins or Lisa Jones, or it could be anybody. But if somebody asks me specifically to help them with the resume, I've done a few. I used to be a hiring manager and I've studied the ATS. But honestly, with the project, it's not about my brain. It's just about this bridge that I've created. Project Help Grow is a bridge that connects the real experts, the industry experts, to the people who need their help, and I connect them. That's really what the project does. So as far as the business owners who need to hire, like if they're looking for a recruiter to help them, I know about 5,000 recruiters.
Right.
So I know a lot. I probably know a couple hundred resume writers and career coaches that I connect people with, and then the employers. So that's really the extent of what I do there. If someone's asking me for my personal advice, knowing that I'm not a career expert, I've learned a lot over 3 years. I really have. Running Project Help You Grow, I've interviewed hundreds of professionals from every part of the earth, and I've learned. I didn't even know what a CV was when I started. Now I know pretty well what it is and how it works, but I don't purport to be a resume expert or an interview expert. So I default to those who know best. But I do have all those resources on my website. So usually I can find an article or I can find a video and say, hey, watch this. This will help you out. Like the number one question I get asked every day: can you help me find a job in a foreign country? I get asked that question every single day. And I used to have to say no 3 years ago. But now actually I can help. I've written articles myself based on interviews and research that I've done. But I have 3 different videos on the website that cover it. I have 4 different blogs on the website that covers it. And again, it's all free. So if you have somebody who asks you that question and you don't know, all you have to do is just point them over there and say, hey, here's a free resource, and you can go read about it. Juliana Ravi is the one that I recommend people talk to, because she was a recruiter and then she was in HR. So she's worked both sides of the fence, and she's immigrated herself a couple times from Spain to somewhere in South America.
Do any of your articles talk about the OFCCP laws and the differences and why people get really frustrated on job descriptions?
I don't think so. So if you want to write it, we'll host it for you for sure. I'm always, so if you guys are interested in, that's what's great about Project Help You Grow. It's a free resource. And so I tell people all the time, especially when they're launching their own resume writing business or whatever they're doing, like, hey, here's a place where you can find candidates who might need your help. Here's a place where you can create your own profile and advertise what you're doing and get to that SEO boost. But if you're doing the blog or you're doing the video podcast interviews, it'll help you splash in my network, which, as you guys probably know, I have a fairly large network. So that helps too. And that's helped me get guests, which is great, right? So that's the biggest way that I'm helping people with Project Help You Grow, is the exposure.
Jason, say something to us.
I'm listening to you guys.
Jason, I'm really curious to understand from you, what challenges or pain points did you witness that really motivated you to start the XXO Connect platform?
The biggest challenge is people are experiencing a loss of connection. They're craving connection. They're experiencing isolation, loneliness, anxiety, depression. And so I wanted to create our own type of social network where we surround ourselves with community support, safe space, free of judgment, where we strip down everything that we know of social networks today. So if we strip down, there's no posting or anything that involves social media, what are we left with? We're just left with human connection, one-on-one conversations, in community we have experts featured master classes all week long with therapists and coaches and all sorts of amazing people. But we're not watching courses. We're actually in something like what we are now, where we actually can open up and have these deep, vulnerable, intimate conversations and get to know each other, but really get to know ourselves through it all and feel like it removes that isolation. We are connected. And we also, so with the courses, we offer also a video chat app where people don't have to send video or link connection request or any other type of links in order to get on a Zoom. It's all our own app where you can just hop on and have a conversation at any given time with a member. So, I mean, we've seen throughout this year is this loss of connection or craving connection, but this has been building up for years now anyway, regardless of. We're more connected than ever before. We have thousands of platforms, hundreds of thousands of apps, and yet we still feel lonely and we still feel like we're in this comparison game where we're getting rejected. So things haven't changed, they just have increased over this past year.
So from what I
second. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Ira.
I was just going to say, I second that, Jason. I see that a lot where people are feeling, and I think this goes back again to part of the imposter syndrome that I've been talking about today, where people feel like, well, I'm not as good as so-and-so. And I think that's a legitimate thing. And social media, I think, is a part of the problem, right? I tell people all the time, you can't trust any of these pictures or any of these videos that you see. I get paid to manipulate them. Okay. I see what they start out as and the finished result. And you can't compare your everyday life. I love this. And this isn't my thought. I've read it on Facebook, I think 1,000 times, but you really can't compare your everyday life to somebody's highlights and expect that it's going to live up to that. Right. Like I'm showing you on my Instagram, I promise you the very best of the photos that I take. You're not seeing the iceberg underneath the water of all the ones that weren't great. You know what I mean? And that's what I think everybody, if they would remember that when they're reading these posts and they're looking at these pictures and they're reading about, someone got this award. Well, you don't know, they might have been 20 years before that with no award, or they might have worked 80 hours a week for a year straight and sacrificed a bunch of other stuff, quality of life, just to get that. And so you're thinking, well, how come they can do it and I can't? But you don't realize all the things you're doing that they're not doing. And it isn't a contest. The only person we really should compete with, and I know you know this, Jason, is ourselves. So for me, the goal is to be better today than I was yesterday. And it's okay to have these dreams, like to get back to what Professor Pete was asking about his son. What do you want to do, when you get into college and with your life? I think that's good to look out and say, okay, here's a goal I want to hit, and then work backwards on what do I need to do from then to now and fill it in stages and have benchmarks and all that stuff. But I think when we start to compare ourselves, like Brittney and I, right, on some weird plane, you could go, well, we compete. We don't. But, there's people who could look at us and say, we do, because she's in the resume space and I run Project Help You Grow. But really, she's an expert at resumes. I'm not. Right. What I deal in that space. And we all, if we think about that, even people who are graphic artists or photographers or whatever, I'm in a clubhouse room at night and I'm doing my video editing or I'm doing my photo editing and I'm listening to some of these world famous photographers talk about their work, and we're looking at their work and stuff, and I could get really insecure really fast, but I know that they live only in that photographer space, and that's their thing. And I'm more like the Swiss Army knife. I do a little bit of everything. And so, yeah, you wouldn't use a Swiss Army knife the same way you would use a dedicated tool, but that dedicated tool is only good for that one thing. You know what I mean? So we all have our own strengths and our own deficiencies, right? Deficits. And so for me, what helped me anyways was to realize that Ira isn't Jason or Lola or Professor Pete or Brittney or Shreyas or Michelle. And thank God for that, because the world doesn't need two of you. And it probably would be a little sad if there was no Ira. I'd like to think so anyways, right? So you just focus on being the best you can be, and that'll turn your frown upside down. It's quicker than anything. When you realize it's okay to be you. In fact, it's not only okay, it's exactly what it should be. You're here for a reason. Do you, and do it as well as you can. So I love it.
I love that. Yeah, no competition, only partnerships. Michelle knows that I get mad at people, and I'll send clients to my competition. I'm like, I can't help you. Here you go. Hey, Adam Karpiak. He sends clients all the time, and then sometimes I'm like, Adam, take this one.
I'm gonna tell you what, if you have a customer or potential customer who's going to be a headache for you, and you send it to your competition, you can let them have that headache while you have tranquility. I would pay for that.
He has more patience than I do with some of these people. So I'm like, Adam, how are you feeling today?
That's
he sends me people all the time too, so it is what it is. He only does accounting resumes.
So I gotta get off, guys, because I haven't prepped for my next podcast interview, so I gotta put a few minutes into that. But it's been a pleasure getting to have a conversation with each of you.
It was nice meeting you.
Bye. Nice to meet you.
Thanks again, Michelle and Shreyas.
Thank you, Pete. We'll see you around.
All righty.
He's usually only on video for 7 minutes because professionals are very busy and rarely have more
what a
time.
diva. I thought Michelle was the only one.
He updated his graphics too, by the way. I don't know if you guys watch his show, but his podcast graphics have been updated. You should check it out. It's pretty good.
Yeah. Did you do that?
I did not.
Oh.
Professor Pete actually has a master's in marketing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that, but he's a very.
I need a master's in marketing. I would save so much money.
It's called Canva.
So
yeah,
Okay, would that be the pro version or the free version? I need to know.
For the $12, you get the pro.
I just hired someone yesterday. I'm like, take it over. Not doing it anymore.
I don't use Canva because I'm a graphics snob. I tell all my friends to use it though. I'm like, look, if you are not a designer, Canva is great. My wife sits over there because sometimes she doesn't want to wait for me to do it. So I'll see her over there designing her own little meme or whatever for her Scentsy business, and I'm like,
Scentsy, yeah. LinkedIn just bought out or just partnered with Canva. So anybody that posts things that are Canva related will actually get pushed to the top because they want people to, what am I trying to say? Communicate or use the brand awareness. So they're pushing all of the Canva stuff to the top right now. So I'm like telling my people, if you can somehow get your resume into Canva and want to post it, do it because it's going to go right to the top. So just FYI on that.
So Lola, how has your transition been so far? How are you finding the change?
To Malaga, really good. Like, obviously, I don't know if everybody knows the geography of Spain, but I was in Madrid, in the capital, which was right in the middle of the country, so miles away from the coast. And I wanted to live by the sea, so I've traveled maybe 5-6 hours south. So I can literally walk within 10 minutes. I'm at the beach. So yeah, really good. But obviously, I don't know anybody here, so it takes time to kind of, get established, meet people. But I love it. It's really nice. It's really different. If anyone's ever lived in a big city and then moved to a small coastal city, you'll know what I mean. Different vibe, but that's what I was looking for. So yeah, I love it. And I just think that, especially when working with clients as well, it's not always about just changing career. It's about, changing life as well sometimes and just doing the things that we want to do. So I like to be, walk the talk kind of thing. I like to practice what I preach. So yeah, it's been really good.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense because I have experienced moving from a very big city, a big country, to really teeny tiny country, the UK. And it wasn't even a city. It was just like it was a village that I moved to. So
where did you
really
live?
makes sense.
Can you remember
I lived
the name
in Cranfield.
Canfield.
Cranfield, very close to Milton Keynes.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
Milton Keynes, it's fairly new city, so it's about
I know
50
Milton
years
Keynes.
old.
Yeah.
So it's about 8 miles from Milton Keynes. Pretty much just my university, the airport attached to my university, and a few other locals that live there, and the rest is all pasture lands and farmers. So it was kind of a refreshing experience. And now, again, I get to move to a very small city, Stuttgart.
Yeah. So when are you moving?
In a fortnight from today.
Oh my God, exciting. That's a big journey.
Oh, it does. It's been, waiting for almost a year and a half. And because of the pandemic, I just had to postpone it. So now trying to get myself prepared for the new normal.
Yeah.
Which should be fun.
And do you speak the language?
I did actually, but ever since I came back to India, it's almost very latent. So I need some good practice once again to pick up on the language.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll get into it. You'll get into the swing of things.
Yeah, being Indian just gives me that advantage. We are multilingual, so picking up a new language is not so much of an issue for me because I personally speak 5 languages. So picking up one more.
What's another one? Wow. That's great.
What languages do you speak? Do you speak French?
No, I don't speak any international languages, but staying in India, we have 28 official languages. Each state has its own. So South India consists of 4 states. So I speak 4 languages, then obviously English, and then a bit of Sanskrit, which I learned in school. So German will be a good addition. I did know some Spanish, but again, without practice, I just totally forgot.
Just know Banyo, you'll be fine.
¿Dónde está?
So to our audience, this will be the final call. If you have any questions, please do share. We have 7 more minutes. Just to respect the time of everyone here, we'd want to close it at the top of the hour. I think it's top of the hour for you. It's a little over 30 minutes for me. So any final thoughts, closing thoughts? We definitely love you back again for the season 2. So
no imposter syndrome, like Ira said, no imposter syndrome. I talk about it all day. And they think that executives don't have imposter syndrome. That is a lie. That is a lie. Everybody has it. I just had a CEO ask me to smith their resume. I'm like, you don't need any smithing. You're the VP of a tech company that is very well known. You do not need smithing. And then I get people that are janitors who are like, I want to get to the next step, but I don't have any managerial experience. I bet you do. I bet you do. Let's talk. But, no more imposter syndrome, guys. It's the time of COVID. If it's your time to make a leap, it's now.
Yeah, everybody experiences
your value.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone experiences it. Even Oprah Winfrey said that she experiences it. So, if someone like that experiences it, then it's okay to be like that. And the main thing is that you might feel that, but that you take action and you do it anyway. You don't get stuck in that. Just push yourself. Just do it.
No, I think you're spot on there, Lola. If you feel like something is inadequate in you, and you can actually flip that on its on its heels. And then, okay, so identify what is it that I feel inadequate about, and what can I do to improve it? Is there a course that I can take? Is there maybe an opportunity to volunteer? Like, for example, what Brittney was just talking about with management experience. I have people that I've talked to, they don't have any professional management experience, but they've maybe been a leader of a ministry at church. Well, guess what? That's management experience. Even though you weren't paid for it, it still counts. So, if you need to read a book or take a class, I think Jason was talking about this earlier, if I remember right, there's all kinds of free help out there, right? So if you want to, let's just take what I do for a living. If you want to learn how to design, or you want to learn how to edit videos, or you want to learn how to build backlinks to boost your SEO, you can learn so much if you just take Google, Siri, Alexa, and say, how do I fill in the blank? And then take those results and start to be inquisitive. Create your own little course. Canva, for example. Canva's free if you want it to be. And anybody without any design experience could get on Canva because of the way they've set up the program and create some, maybe they're not award-winning art pieces, but they'll communicate in a fun way and it'll be helpful. And then as you do it and get that practice, you'll get better, right? So imposter syndrome can be overcome with two things. A, not hating yourself, and B, investing time to improve. Again, if you're identifying places where you feel insecure and you say, what can I do to make those better? And then you put in the work, it can be overcome.
I absolutely agree on what both of you said. And the third point I'd add is adaptability. Because as Brittney rightly pointed out, you do have the experience, you have all the tools at your disposal. Just be aware of it and try to adapt to whatever you're doing. And I think with awareness, knowing yourself, knowing your strengths, you can definitely overcome imposter syndrome. I've overcome it because at 25, I certainly did not have the confidence to coach mid-level executives. But right now, I've just been booked for the last 3 months, and I'm going to take a month's break, and the schedule is again very busy. So just have the awareness, just trust yourself, and eventually you will really get there. Just have patience, perseverance, and passion. So Michelle, I don't see any more questions. So your closing thoughts? You're on mute.
I need to unmute. Yes. I just got knocked back into my place. Thank you. Anyhow, yeah, we all need to know what our strengths are, know our value. And there is so much help out there if you are having trouble finding your way. We have a panel right here, plus Professor Pete, who left, where there's a great start for your search. Just reach out to any of us and we can help you. And I just want to thank all you guys for joining us today. It's been fun.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the finale of season 1 of Life Talk Burrito. It's been a real pleasure for the last 3 months bringing in great guests, some of whom have already appeared on the show. So please do connect with all our panelists, exception Ira, because he's way past his 30,000 limits. So you can definitely follow him and keep in touch over DMs. And the rest of us, including Professor Pete, we are always open to offer our expertise, our help. You just have to ask for what you want and ask, you shall receive. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for accepting our invite and giving us this opportunity to share some key values. So we have covered career search, we have covered about imposter syndrome, we have covered about transitions. We have also talked about the safe environment that Jason provides through XXO Connect platform. Please do connect with Jason, take a look at what the platform has to offer, and also with the other coaches on here. So on that note, take care, and we will update you when season 2 will premiere.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.